Hello, I'm Langston. I'm back on my channel, Military Election Forecasting. Today I'm going to be talking about the demise of Republicans in the Southwest. And the Southwest is a political region of the country Republicans dominated just in the beginning of the century, excluding California, which was a Republican state going in the 80s and early 90s. All of these states were states Republicans had been winning prior, and I want to talk about what changed in those states. So, demographically, these states changed a lot. And we've seen all of these states shift dramatically in Democrats' favor in the last 20 years, with California becoming a solid Democratic state, as well as New Mexico and Colorado becoming very reliable Democratic states, as well as Nevada becoming a Democratic state as well as Arizona flipping in 2020, as well as Democrats winning the gubernatorial race and both Senate races in that state, with Texas dramatic narrowing and Utah also becoming less Republican of a state. So something is happening in this region of America that's changed these states dramatically in the last couple of decades. And the major thing that changed these states was the dramatic rise in Hispanic Latino voters across these states. And these states are becoming rapidly more Hispanic. And with that, when you have a demographic group that, usually breaks 2 to 1 for Democrats, and, there's been some elections where, that margin is slipped. But regardless, with more of those voters to offer, the Democratic ceiling in these states will continue to rise. And there have been other factors that have caused these states to shift left as well. But that has been the most notable reason, considering that all of these states have pretty similar demographics, and you're all seeing very similar trends across all of them. So obviously, I already know California, New Mexico, and Colorado have become pretty solid Democratic states. But I want to talk about the other ones. Because Utah is a state that Mitt Romney won by 48 points, but Donald Trump only won the state by 20 in 2020. Only by 20 points. And that is still a large margin, but that's a 28% increase for Democrats just in 8 years. Texas is a state that Mitt Romney won by 16 points, but you saw Donald Trump only won the state by 5 points. And one of the most notable things was a Republican governor, Greg Abbott, who won by 12 points, and a Republican in a Democratic wave environment won by a smaller margin and a much more Republican friendly environment. So what you're seeing across these states is dramatic increases, particularly in urban areas where we're talking about Los Angeles, San Francisco dominating California's electorate. We're talking about Las Vegas and Reno dominating Nevada's electorate. We're talking about Salt Lake City dominating Utah's electorate. We're talking about Phoenix in Arizona, Albuquerque, New Mexico, Denver in Colorado, as well as Austin, Dallas, Houston, and San Antonio in Texas. So what you're seeing is the urban areas across these states is what's trending these states dramatically in Democrats' favor. And it's something you've seen decades ago. What you saw George W. Bush being able to nearly hold on to these states, mainly because these states were a lot less Hispanic back then, as well as him being able to do much better than other Republicans among Hispanic Latino voters, was barely able to give him narrow victories across a lot of these states. And what you're seeing now is with these states trending dramatically in Democrats' favor because of that one demographic group, the impending doom amongst Republicans is inevitable. I made a video a while back about Republicans' doom in the Rust Belt, and Democrats' doom in the Rust Belt, and I wanted to make another one about Republicans' impending doom in the Sun Belt. So even with that, most people will expect Republicans to hold on in Utah for some time, as Utah's still a very Republican state. But it is worth noting that Democrats are continuously improving amongst the state. Nevada is a state where many people expect is actually trending Republican, but the demographic data does not back that up. Nevada is a state that is majority, which means there's more people of color than white people. And we know the more people of color there are, the more Democratic votes there are. And even if there's more of those voters, even if those voters trend Republican, there's going to be more of them. Republicans are not going to win that demographic. So regardless, even if they're doing a little bit better, it doesn't matter. Like, you can take Georgia, for example, Georgia, Virginia, for example. These are states where Joe Biden did not do as well with black voters as Obama, but because there's more of them in Georgia and Virginia, he still outperformed him. So what people don't understand is just because you're doing a percent, 2, 3 points better with a demographic, if there's more of them to offer, it's still going to benefit the opposition party. And that's something you've seen in many states, even with white voters. We know Democrats can do a couple points better with white voters, but if those voters turn out at a higher rate, it's still going to benefit Republicans. So similar thing with Democrats in Nevada. Nevada is becoming rapidly more Hispanic. I mean, it's already became rapidly more Hispanic, but even becoming more of such. And you're also seeing the Asian and Black population in Nevada grow. So with that, and a declining white population, which is the base of the Republican Party support in Nevada, you're going to see Nevada trend Democratic the same way you've seen every state in this region trend Democratic. In Arizona, this is one of the states where not only is Arizona becoming more Hispanic, it's also becoming a lot more educated, which is something you saw in Colorado, which shifted Colorado a lot faster than it did in states relative like New Mexico. And one of the biggest things that have benefited Republicans for a while is Hispanic Latino turnout is not high. It's pretty inconsistent, and that's something that's benefited Republicans because their Democratic base is not coming out at the rate that Democrats want them to. But I want to point out that in the Rust Belt, working class voters and rural voters are not consistent as well as we found in the midterm election. That does not mean that the Rust Belt is not trending Republican. So when you're having people say, oh, well, these states are trending Republican because, they trended a point to the right. Okay, but did the Democratic base in those states come out to vote? But the similar thing, you saw Republicans make their argument in the Rust Belt. You did not see the Republicans base come out in the Rust Belt. So when you're not seeing the Democratic Party's base come out in states like Texas, it's going to look a lot more Republican. So again, I expect Democrats to continue to improve in Arizona as well. And in the future, probably bring Texas into their column because Republicans are losing massive ground in all of these states. You did see Republicans make big gains in the rural areas across these states, but there's a lot more people in the big cities and rural areas. And when you're looking at that, it's causing all of these states to become a lot more Democratic. And you saw this happen for the past couple of decades. So for Republicans, they have to come out with a way to win without Texas, because the problem is Texas is an impending doom for Republicans. It's only a matter of time before Republicans lose the state. And considering they've lost every state in its region, there's a big chance that Texas is not going to be different. And even with Oklahoma, which is a very extremely Republican state, Oklahoma still trended pretty left, like compared to other ones. I know I didn't include Oklahoma in this video, but you're even seeing this in Oklahoma, where the population centers in Oklahoma are trending in Democrats' favor. So a whole consensus in this region is trending against Republicans, and it's been doing so for 20 years now. And Republicans need to come up with a way to, counteract these shifts or to slow them down at least. Because as we know, obviously these electors might be electors of the future, but they're not the electorate of today, as Republicans found out in the Rust Belt. So even though Democrats have a very high ceiling and a much higher potential in these states, their potential versus their results are not the same. And I think that's something that we need to know. But with having California and Texas both in your column, the two most populated states in the country, that is a very, very bad sign for Republicans. So again, I'm Langston, I'm on my channel, Military Election Forecasting. Thank you guys so much for tuning into my channel, and make sure to have a nice day, you guys. Goodbye.